The more I watch of this wonderful show, the more worried I get about the death flags that have been there since pretty much the beginning. Just originally, I was looking at the death flags on being Destiny herself, because, first, we figure out we lost Cosette, and now we have Destiny. One of these characters have to end up dying. But then ultimately, to see that for so long I've been putting most of my focus on eventually Destiny giving her life for Takt, and for the most part, this episode was kind of going the direction of it felt like she was going to do that. I didn't think it would be this episode, but it was just giving me the assumption that she recognizes that she's killing Takt, and eventually there'll come a point where she'll stop doing it. She'll stop using his energy to live, and then she'll end up dead in an emotional sequence. But then they end the episode with him looking at his neck, and you can tell that the wounds and the damage is getting severe. And I have a feeling, my gut is telling me, that the way the show might end potentially, not with Destiny herself dying, but rather Takt finishing his song, maybe getting to play it, maybe taking down this organization, but I have a feeling he might not get out of this. Now, don't get me wrong, if both Takt and Destiny end up surviving, I would be happy, because I think in a lot of ways we're almost getting a second version of the relationship that could have been. But at the same time, I could see them committing with one of these two dying, but I don't think Takt deserves, to lose another loved one. So I think, honestly, for him, as long as he can finish that song, he'll probably be a lot more happy than if he has to watch Destiny die. There's going to be some people who say, I don't want anyone to die, and I completely get it, but they definitely have been setting it up for some time. You don't introduce a character who takes over your dead lover, who becomes a new person, who has next to no personality, develop into a person, while simultaneously recognizing that she is killing the person that she cares the most about. You don't do that unless you're supposed to, at the very least, consider the possibility that someone is dying. One of them. Not both, but probably one of them. And it's definitely fun to think about, but it's anxious to think about is the best way to put it. But this was, I think, one of the best, if not the best episodes of the anime to date. It's hard to say because the past handful of episodes have really been top tier with character development, so they all kind of blend into one great package for me. But what I really appreciate is seeing Takt completely lose himself. And the first minute, I think it was honestly less than a minute of animation for fight scenes in the very beginning, but it was so smooth. And seriously, Schindler would have probably gotten killed had Hell not been there. And I love Hell. She is psychotic, crazy, and I love those over-the-top, disruptive anime characters. But the fact that Schindler, he would have ended up dead for sure, but then Hell almost breaks his ribs, or did break his ribs, and the fact that Destiny retreated, when we compare how she started off, she would blow apart walls to go fight D2s. Now she's the type of person who just wants to keep her maestro safe, and so he can finish the song that clearly means so much to him. And to see that sequence in the cave, where they're finally starting to bond properly. That moment where she fed him water, right? She was trying to give him water with her hands. He was kind of lashing out because he's in pain, so she gave him water by mouth. I thought that was a really nice sequence because it really shows you how much she cares, but also those types of emotions are things you never thought you would see from her, given how the show started off. And I thought it would be a lot more tropey with, at the very least, one of its characters' designs, which I was assuming it would be Cosette/Destiny until I realized that they were two separate people, essentially. But to see how, really, she was giving a motivational pep talk to say, you need to keep going on, people want to hear your songs, and the fact that she's one of them. The moment when they finally say her name, I thought it was just going to be talk in this episode. I thought it was very clear he would say her name and would finally call her who she was, which is Destiny. And the fact that that was kind of the biggest reason why they haven't been as in sync as they should have been for some time, I think is really interesting. But the fact that Big Sister Anna also recognizes that she hasn't been acknowledging her as her own person. She's been filling the void with her dead sister, but the fact that she is still a sister is just, it's not the sister that she lost. And the fact that they can kind of start anew, Big Sister Anna as well as Destiny, but they can still feel like family. It's just they have to move on from Cosette, essentially. And this kind of felt like the accepting that one's gone. And I'm still open to the possibility that Cosette could still be there somewhere, and maybe Destiny will try to bring her back at the sacrifice of her own self. I doubt they will be able to share the same body, Destiny in combat form, Cosette in normal form. But I do think there's a couple of different ways they could go. Cosette coming back at the sacrifice of Destiny, Talk end up dying, or maybe just Destiny end up dying, but there's going to be some form of emotional swing, I'm sure of. But the fact that once they finally, like, accepted who they are to each other, you know, Destiny cares for Talk a hell of a lot, loves him as, you know, a conductor, a maestro, someone who makes music, but most importantly a person, and he's not running away from the fact that Cosette's dead. He recognizes what Cosette meant to him, and then you get that kind of like moment of why music was so important to him, to then finally accepting, and the fact that Lenny and Titan weren't there to save the day, but more so make it so that they can have a chance to finally connect to their feelings there, and to see the devastation they were able to cause. It'll be interesting to see what the remaining action scenes will look like, because up until this point, I didn't really think they have the skills in it themselves to take down this organization. But honestly, seeing the firepower they now have, even though it is killing our boy severely, it seems possible. Though the biggest shocker of this episode was definitely Schindler himself. While I knew he wasn't a big shot, I also didn't think he was nothing. The fact that Hell was just kind of like playing with him, basically just being able to cause chaos, pretending that she's being controlled by him, and the moment he betrays the organization's trust and Heaven comes in and says, "You're fired," he snaps the little conductor stick and he's just done. I'm like, of all the ways you could deal with this pathetic individual, you gave him the most pathetic defeat. You didn't kick his ass, you didn't take his name, you shattered his world. Because had you broken every bone in his body, he would still be screaming that he's gonna kill you. But having the people who essentially gave you any authority say you were nothing and you literally had no power, you were never a maestro, you were never a conductor. The fact that they did that to him. The humiliation is absolutely what this dude deserves. Don't get me wrong, I still wish Talk would have broken his ribs, but it's crazy to see that. And to have Heaven and Hell just walk away afterwards, honestly, it'll be interesting. I mean, I love having Lenny and Titan back on screen. I'm glad they didn't end up like betraying or anything like that. Not gonna lie, when he was talking with Anna at first, I was getting the impression that he was trying to like spread badmouth lies. I don't know why. My mind was just like, please don't make him betray, and I was starting to worry myself, but it's just great to see how much of a bro he is to just everyone, and I absolutely adore that type of stuff. I mean, I've been a big supporter of the show ever since the beginning. I know the community was kind of like in an uproar about, was it good, was it bad for the first handful of episodes, but I mean, seeing where the character development has gone, seeing how it's not one note with his story, and the fact that the characters are first and foremost the most important thing. I know a lot of people early on were thinking the fights would be the thing that, you know, the story would put the emphasis on. But no, it clearly is. It's very meaty cast of characters. There's not too many, but there's enough for a story to be there. There's these over-the-top fun antagonists who just like chaos or kind of like the rule of law, like in the case of Heaven. But the characters and how they're being fleshed out and explored, I really, really enjoy, and pretty much is exactly what I think a show like this should be. It's not trying to be too much, but it's not trying to be too little that there's no meat to the story. It definitely feels like a full plate of great substance in terms of anime content, and it'll be fun. I really think they can end it successfully by episode 12, and I think for a lot of people, they probably thought it wasn't going to be able to until this character development started happening, but good stuff going forward for sure. But let me know your thoughts and feelings. Favorite moment? What do you think is going to happen, especially with the amount of death flags that are there? Do you think anyone's going to go out, or do you think they're all going to make it by the end? Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.